afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Cloud and Data Center virtual panel. Today, we should touch and cover together with the industry leaders how cloud and data centers shaping the digital economy. But just before we tackle this very trendy subject, let me quickly introduce myself and distinguished speakers and today's discussion points. So my name is Tamer Bdran. I'm Vice President of NEC Corporation in the Middle East based on Dubai. And I will be the moderator today for this webinar. And we will cover 5 topics for today. Accelerating cloud and data centers in the digital era, issue of data sovereignty in the Middle East region, the importance of data regulations and policies, the role of cloud and data center for future of digital economy. And last one, we will touch the future of cloud, capitalizing on what had been done in the past and starting from today. I also would like to thank everyone watching this webinar and have a couple of notes to highlight. Anyone can ask questions in the Q&A box below in this webinar box. And we will answer them by the estimated speakers or myself in the end of the panel. Just try to mention in the introduction of your questions which speaker you expect him to respond to your point. And last note is then I will start to introduce our speakers. We are launching a poll at the end of the webinar, so please keep a close eye on your screens. Then we will share the outcomes and some insights from speakers at the end based on the poll result. Now, let me welcome our distinguished speakers for today. Bernard Najm, Vice President Telco of Middle East and Africa from AWS. Nicholas Gracer, Head of Public Policy, Middle East and Africa from AWS. Stelios Savvides, Chief Technology and Information Officer from Vodafone, Oman. Mounir, Ladki, President and CTIO, Mycom OSI. And Ouassim Arroussi, B2B Marketing Director from inwi. So now I will leave the floor to our distinguished speaker to briefly introduce themselves. Please, gentlemen.
Thank you, Tamer, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Bernard Najm, Vice President for Telco for AWS for Middle East and Africa, and joined AWS almost 1 year ago, and before that have been with one of the equipment providers for a very long period, working in different places in the Middle East and Africa. So happy to join this panel, and thank you, Tamer and Telecom Review, for giving us this opportunity to discuss the very relevant topic which will impact our industry to a large extent. I'm sure we will hear some very nice and good examples about the cloud adoption and innovation practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard.
I will go next. Tamer?
Yes,
thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity to take part to this exciting panel. My name is Nicolas Gracer. I'm heading Telecom Policy for Middle East and Africa at Amazon Web Services. I joined 2 years ago from a telecom background. And I've spent about 12 years in the Middle East now. In my role, I'm working with telecom customers to overcome regulatory blockers to transform their networks. I'm also engaging with telecom regulators to build future-proof regulation. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Ouassim.
Thank you, Tamer. Ouassim Arroussi. I'm from inwi, which is an operator, mobile and fixed operator in Morocco. I'm leading B2B activities from the product and marketing side. So inwi has been launching, as I said, fixed connectivity and mobile for more than 16 years now, but we launched several years ago activities around data centers and clouds and managed cybersecurity services, and what these are some of the insights I'll be very happy to share with you. Thank you again.
Thank you. Stelios?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be with you. My name is Stelios. I'm the CTIO for Vodafone Oman. Vodafone Oman is a new operator. We are a greenfield operator that launched at the end of December 2021. And I've had the pleasure of being here in Oman for the last 3 years to really deliver this and get the operator up and running. I've been with Vodafone for 18 years, working in 6 different markets and 2 in the GCC. So previously Vodafone Qatar and now in Oman.
Thank you. So thank you.
Hi, this is Mounir. I'll introduce myself. Sorry.
Let us start with. Very sorry.
Sorry, Tamer. Yeah, if you can hear me, okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Mounir Ladki. I'm co-founder, president, and CTO of Mycom OSI. So Mycom OSI is a global leading service assurance provider. So we help CSPs across the globe to maintain their networks at peak performance, optimize the quality of service delivered to their end customers, which are enterprises or consumer customers, and also automate their operations. And over the last few years, I've witnessed firsthand this big transformation of operations and service delivery from on-prem to the cloud, which really sits at the heart of the telco transformation and their customers. So very happy to share some of those insights and experiences on this call. And this was done, by the way, through our partnership with AWS. That was a very fruitful and great transformative initiative. I'll be happy to share here and share with the esteemed panelists those some of these learnings and feedbacks. Thank you.
Thanks, Mounir. So thank you, gentlemen. And now let us start with the panel topics. So we will start with Bernard. So from your experience, how cloud and data centers benefit the future of digital economy in our Middle East and Africa territory?
Thank you, Tamer. I'll take a little bit broader perspective here about also the benefits of the cloud. But looking at the macroeconomic background of the Middle East and Africa, I believe we are still seeing a significant impact from the aftermath of the pandemic. And we have uncertainty as to how this is going really to evolve. However, what we do see for sure is that the pandemic's influence is driving accelerated, tangible changes in supply chain and macroeconomics and market dynamics. At the same time, what we're also seeing is an increased geopolitical disruption, as well as new energy market dynamics. So all these factors really, they are creating a requirement for all market participants to become more agile and to act and to react more flexibly compared to what we were used to do some years ago. And this agility, this needed agility, is putting the telecom operators and CSP into a new and important role, which is to enable innovation capabilities for the Middle East and Africa region. Now, this shift of technology and the economic impact, is that something which is only in this region? Obviously not. It is a global phenomenon. We see it across the globe. And therefore, it is also important that we look at other areas like North America, like Europe, and see how telecom operators really fill this role of innovators. We can see that a majority of the CSPs in those markets have embarked the journey, and as Mounir was mentioning, by starting the cloud adoption to drive their enterprise IT transformation. And based on this positive experience which they gained in the enterprise IT transformation, they now started to cloudify their network, with some leaders like Dish creating a new nationwide 5G network fully based on AWS cloud, or Telenor and Hutchinson basing new MVNO capabilities fully on cloud with a 5G core running on AWS cloud. For instance, as well, Telefonica in Brazil, who have successfully validated the AWS clouds based on Outpost for their 5G core, and announced the deployment of a first site this summer. And the development is not limited only to the core and the IT or the core part of the network, but also on the radio access network. And therefore, in order to foster this, AWS has joined the Open RAN initiative to support the innovation journey for those network elements. So at AWS, we strongly believe that this trend, which we have seen in other regions, will apply to the Middle East and Africa region as well. And this puts the CSP in a position that they have the opportunity to plan the adoption to reap the benefit of agility and cost reduction, but at the same time also learn from the experiences which have happened in the other regions, and to leapfrog the development and accelerate their own journey. So in my view, CSPs are at a critical point in time to decide whether they do take a leader role, or a leader as a catalyzer and enabler, or to trail as a follower. And then we have to see that while every CSP has to decide for themselves if they want to, or the right time, there's definitely a merit to taking a leader's role and adopt the cloud fairly early. What we have seen is that from experience in other regions, we can learn that this allows operators to monetize their investment faster and position themselves as thought leaders and innovators with their customers, especially in their enterprise markets. Example here is Verizon in the US and Vodafone in Europe, who started to quickly monetize their 5G network investments with wavelengths. We also see it, for instance, in Telia in Europe, who monetize their network by liberating their data and leveraging AI and machine learning to reduce churn and improve customer experience. Now, they're definitely convinced that this was essential for them to move fast, to gain this competitive advantage and increase their relevance with their end customers successfully. So what's the role of cloud, and how would the clouds accelerate the digital economy? In my perspective, cloud is one, if not the key enabler of the digital economy, providing enterprises as well as entrepreneurs a platform where they can focus on creating value without having to worry about the underlying infrastructure. With the cloud, they can, for instance, innovate by consuming infrastructure on demand as and when needed, using CI/CD methodologies to iterate over business ideas, models, and build and launch products fast, but they also can fail fast. So this is a very quick process, which will allow them to proceed quickly. Enterprises can also focus on their core competence. The cloud enables companies to focus on what they do best, how to disrupt stagnant industries, and not to be constrained by infrastructure. The focus then becomes on how to create value for business and consumers. And with AWS, for instance, Uber disrupted the global transportation industry, and Netflix disrupted the content and entertainment industry. Another advantage for enterprises and entrepreneurs would be that they can scale and achieve global success. Coming again back to Uber and Netflix, global scaling was extremely easy. The cloud allows for exponential global scaling and growth at the push of a button almost. Now, what are the key learnings, what we have seen from the first cloud adopters? And what did we observe from the steps those successful operators took? And how does this translate to an approach that operators in the Middle East and Africa can take? Is first, these CSPs drove the implementation of their transformation top down, and they recognized that speed is of essence. And second, they work very closely with regulators to allow adoption of innovation, capabilities, and enable new services for end customers. So operators in the Middle East and Africa are in a very strong position because of their experience locally and their strengths to apply those learnings and help position the local countries, their local countries, to become a true innovation hub and attract the necessary investment. Another key learning, for instance, is also what I would call the homegrown innovation that is aligned to the needs of the local market and the local economy and population. An example for this is, for instance, with Safaricom in Kenya, where they have developed DigiFarm to transform the agriculture market in Kenya for smallholder farmers with innovative solution built on AWS cloud. So the role of the CSP and operators in Middle East and Africa can be to support incubating and establishing an important developer community with a skill set to push innovation by creating a critical mass. And this is why AWS is looking to work closely with CSPs to enable this journey, create the go-to-market partnerships, and to invest in education, training, culture, and skill sets.
Thanks, Bernard. And so, Ouassim, if we need to build on top of what Bernard said now about how hyperscaler will work together with communication service provider to develop the vertical markets. So, from your experience, how cloud can contribute in the future of enterprises, and especially verticals, capitalizing in the cloud? If you have some certain experience where you can share from co-work between capitalizing in the cloud to serve certain verticals and enable those verticals to enable the digital economy.
Sure. Yes, as what we just heard, we cannot even imagine how the world could have gone through the pandemic crisis and even the current ones without the actual levers to accelerate the digital transformation. I mean, even in countries like Morocco or other developing countries, we noticed some amount of resilience from all sizes of enterprises, even from SMBs, because they were able to shift very quickly to the digital channels. So I think the first thing that cloud is providing to many verticals is the ability to transform themselves very fast and to provide a real omni-channel, or at least a real digital channel very quickly. The second thing we noticed across the several verticals, and then I will go probably to some examples, but the second benefit we noticed here, at least in our market, is the ability to go from the idea to implementation very fast again, and this has been taken to the market by activities like retail, for example, that have been really succeeding in going to digital, and now we have some great retail chains that are providing probably more than 20% of their business on digital. And I don't think this could have been imagined without the scalability and the agility of the cloud. The third benefit we noticed from our customers and partners is, of course, the cost scalability again. So time to market, but also cost scalability. The CapEx is not an obstacle anymore. So this allowed these companies, and especially the smaller ones, to build their business models without waiting for specific investment method. So we've been working, as I said, with many verticals. The first probably to react, because it was a necessity, is the public sector, because during the pandemic, every actor providing public services was, of course, obliged to ensure the continuity of service. So we worked with many government institutions, of course, to build specific cases. It was not public cloud. Usually it was more externalization in data centers and sometimes hybrid cloud with schemes to build very, very quickly backup and as a service or disaster recovery infrastructure to make their services more resilient and available. We've been working also with tourism, but lately with tourism and hospitality sector, because after, I mean, the very peak period of the pandemic crisis, they had to relaunch very, very fast, and they used the cloud, would it be infrastructure or software as a service to be able to get back to the market very, very, very fast. We also, of course, we are working with mining and industry. Many important, I mean, a lot of important shifts are happening around software and industrial software moving to the cloud. So we are working with partners from industry and mining to get this done. And that, as I said, retailers also is one of the verticals that are getting a huge benefit from the cloud, especially to create a very profitable and also a very different channel. I think that something has to be also highlighted here. When our customers go to the cloud to improve their omni-channel strategy or even to improve their user experience, they are moving the competition model to something that is more beneficial than the price. They are competing, the ecosystem of our customers is competing on the experience, on innovation, and cloud is enabling this move to these new eras, shifting from a very basic price competition that is, of course, very dangerous for our economies.
Thank you, Ouassim. Still, this is quite difficult one. Cloud very much coupled with 5G, especially when you think about telco application, and consumer, industry, business. Everybody have big hopes in the 5G and 5G use cases, 5G application, and everybody see it as an engine for the transformation will happen in the digital economy. So what use cases for 5G and edge computing based on cloud where you see it relevant? First, you see it relevant for Middle East and Africa region. And the second difficult part is how do you see the ROI as a telecom service provider? You are doing such investment and compared to the ROI of those kind of use cases.
Thank you. I mean, look, 5G, as you said, is something that customers, operators, we're all having a lot of hope and expectation for. When you look at from a consumer point of view, you're expecting a better service, higher throughputs, lower latencies, a lot more capacity. Now, of course, this helps, improve the customer experience. It improves capabilities for consumers, especially around gaming and all of that. But there is that angle, which is the consumer, and as handsets and devices start prevailing through the market, the adoption grows, and we start to get this benefit because with 5G, we can offer data to our customers in a much more efficient way. So this is where right now we're seeing 10, 15, 20% of handsets in the market being 5G capable. So we're seeing that improvement of, let's call it what you asked about, the ROI. Now, there is also the enterprise play, which is very important. So here you have a number of industries that need to have dedicated deployments where they can run machinery that needs a controlled environment, very low latency, like robotics, like looking at specific equipment that do a lot of monitoring, for example, in the oil industry and so on. So there's a lot of opportunities there in the enterprise play that I think is also driving dedicated, let's call them private network deployments. okay? And of course, one of the things where you have these private networks is also you're able to control data. So one of the topics around this whole evolution is, you know, making sure data, you know, sensitive information is secure, okay? Now, in terms of how cloud is helping this, so on the core side, I think all new deployments nowadays, when I look at what we have done, is all cloud. Everything is cloud-based. Okay, and you build your microservices and so on top of that. But also, as you get nearer to the site, you see, you know, Bernard mentioned Open RAN. That whole evolution is, you know, trying to change how we deploy things, do them in a smarter way. The private networks, and of course, the mobile edge computing. So again, how do we manage, process all of this data? Because as we evolve with 5G, the data, the information that's coming out is much, much higher. Now, in terms of cloud, I mean, look, quite frankly, and this is one of the discussion topics, that honestly, we need cloud farms. Deploying private clouds, okay, is not sustainable. The growth, the scalability that's needed, you just need to have access to cloud farms. So currently, we have private cloud in country. I'm hoping people like AWS will be here in Oman very soon and give me the opportunity to take advantage of public cloud, because I need access to that to help grow. And this is where, as you know, I think Ouassim mentioned earlier, you know, what we have all been through in the last few years with the pandemic, our reliance on our connectivity and the data that we're all consuming and using has been growing exponentially, and we need access to these wonderful cloud environments to be able to grow in a sustainable but secure manner.
Thank you, Stelios. So, Mounir, maybe we will come a little bit to the challenge part. Everybody spoke about the benefits. So, like, what challenges and obstacles you see it in the cloud adoption from both angles, from the base and also from the scale angle as well?
Yes, thank you. So, as I mentioned before, we've witnessed this firsthand, because we, as a software vendor, we used to deploy our software, you know, on premises, on our customers' premises, the telcos, to help them again assure the quality of services they deliver to their customers and maintain their networks at peak performance, optimize the performance of their networks. Now, we started with ourselves with a transformation, because to cope with the complexity of the networks, the data volumes, came a point where we had to transform to a SaaS model, okay? And we started offering our customers the same solutions, but with enhanced capabilities directly from the cloud. And what are the benefits that we kind of promised them? We said, look, in terms of time to market, and I'll come to the challenge in a second, because to show you what happened with the challenges, we told them from a time to market, usually it takes us right now about maybe 6 months to deploy a solution. The time to procure the hardware, to put it in your data center, to have all the, you know, all the IT around it and so on, and then start the deployment. We can cut it down to hours. And if you go with the SaaS solution, from month to hours. And this is real. This is not like talk in the air. That's on the one hand. And then on the CapEx and OpEx side, you can achieve massive benefits because you pay as you use in terms of the, you know, on the compute workloads, etc. And there is also new capabilities, because it's not only about achieving cost efficiencies or time to market, but also really accelerating the automation agenda, because AI at scale can only, and I'll come to it maybe in the second part of the discussion, AI at scale can only work in the cloud. You know, it's very difficult, both operationally and economically, to make it work in a private, in an on-prem, in a private environment. And so when we came to this promise, well, so first the telco said, yes, great, why not? We've adopted it. We've started, you know, we've adopted the cloud in our enterprise IT, but this is the core of my network. I cannot have my data in the cloud. This is like the core of my operations. This is very sensitive. This has to be real time. So they cited first few concerns. Security. How can I make sure that my data here is secured within my environment? How can I ensure data security in the public cloud? So that's a first concern that you have to overcome. And honestly, this is mostly through education. So we worked, us and AWS together, to prove to them that in fact, if anything, security is maintained, if not enhanced, in the public cloud. And that's a big topic. Then you have the regulatory concerns sometimes that, okay, regulators impose that ABC, but now we'll see more and more clouds, like data centers being coming to different countries to overcome some of these regulatory concerns. The third one is really the know-how. Shifting from, because when you shift to public cloud or to cloud, then you shift from static, virtual machines, from IT workloads to containers, to microservices and containers. And this is a whole new thing that you have to learn how to operate and manage and scale. And so you need, you need to educate staff. You need a whole shift in the enterprise, but culture. And to the point raised by Bernard, when it is driven top down, you can overcome some of these challenges. Then there is the mentality to shift from a CapEx model to an OpEx model. And that's, our industry, especially the telco, has been used for many years to the CapEx model. I buy the hardware for the next 3 years or 5 years, and I start amortizing it. And you have to, shift to that new model that delivers 3 to 5 years kind of, high double digit, savings over 3 to 5 years. And here, by the way, we saw that there was a solution to overcome that, which is the bring your own cloud, which is an intermediate version between, just going to full SaaS public cloud model, where the telcos bring their own, cloud, which is done in partnership with the hyperscalers, and then offer it to, people like us, and we jointly collaborate to, deploy the software and migrate the workloads into these bring your own cloud environment. Now, there are other, finally, these are the major, so security, regulatory concern, CapEx, OpEx, these are, and then the culture and the know-how. These are key kind of challenges, and I showed how to overcome them. There is now a new kind of challenge arising, which is the energy consumption and the impact on the environment. But here again, there are solutions. And in the Middle East, for example, you need chillers almost 100% of the time, given the temperatures. You can't use the ambient air to cool the data centers, for example, like in Europe or other places. And so here, but there are innovations. For example, we are working with Intel on an innovation whereby we can monitor and do analytics on the power consumptions in the data centers. And then we can optimize, and then you can then optimize the power based on and reduce the frequency of the processors and so on, while you still meet the SLAs, but you really have a major impact on the heating and the energy consumption. So there are solutions that are also being put in place to overcome these challenges again that are arising, and that will be growing going forward. But all in all, the benefits largely overweigh the risks and the challenges, and we're working on smart solutions to overcome the challenges that I mentioned. That's why among our customers, and talking about my own experience, operators as diverse and as large as Globe in the Philippines, H3G in the UK, Vodafone in the UK, T-Mobile in Austria, many are today running their service assurance, their network performance, service quality management in the public cloud with our SaaS solutions. They're getting the benefit of it. They are, kind of satisfied with the security arrangements that we brought to them, with the performance and the overall SLAs that we're meeting. And I think it's win-win for everyone. So there are lots of success kind of stories now in the industries that we can replicate and let the majority of the telcos and their customers benefit from it.
Thanks, Mounir. So, Nicholas, last challenge where, once we start to go to cloud, one of the biggest challenges is regulations, is data sovereignty. And so how do we overcome those kind of challenges from your experience?
Thank you, Tamer. It's not an easy question. For two reasons. Middle East and Africa is a huge footprint of 67 countries that each have their own set of challenges and dynamics. And second, when you talk about data sovereignty, it's an umbrella term, that can refer to very different things. So let me nonetheless try to outline key trends, key issues that we see in Middle East and Africa. Trend number one, we see GDPR standard is spreading. We see many data privacy laws in Middle East Africa modeled on GDPR, the European privacy regulation. That is driving some degree of harmonization between countries, which is good to enable data to flow between countries. However, these privacy frameworks, they remain very heterogeneous and fragmented. So data is not flowing, between countries as it should. And if you think about it, it's not completely a surprise. It took Europe 50 years to achieve harmonization of its privacy frameworks, with the first data privacy laws that appeared in the early 70s in Europe. Now we're trying to achieve that in Middle East and Africa in 5 to 10 years. So that's, we're facing some challenge. If you take specifically Sub-Saharan Africa, no country to date, to my knowledge, has issued an adequacy decision. So basically a decision that lists a number of countries that are flagged as safe or secured to send data. I think in Northern Africa, we have Morocco that has an adequacy list. Yeah, long story short, still very fragmented frameworks, a lot of barriers for data to flow between countries. That's the issue number one. Trend number two, we see a proliferation of regulations of cloud service providers, particularly in Middle East. So telecom regulators basically broadening their jurisdiction from telecom to cloud and imposing on cloud service providers that they get a registration or a license. This license registration go with certain obligations that can include the localization of data. So that trend was really started, I think, in Saudi Arabia with cloud computing regulatory framework launched by the regulator CTIO. And it then followed in Egypt, Qatar, Oman. In the UAE, we have a version of it as well. So proliferation of cloud service provider regulations. Third, and I'm thinking more particularly about the telecom sector, we see in some countries localization requirements appearing. And this can take the form either of specific regulations. The example is in the UAE, we have an IoT policy that mandates the localization of data for IoT services, or sometimes security controls imposed by security agencies. So all that is very complex, fragmented. And I think if we want to think about how we solve these issues, we need to think about the common denominator. And we need to take a step back and think about the concerns, the issues that governments and regulators are trying to solve. And I think there are three main issues. First issue that regulators are trying to solve is security. So there is a sense that having the data locally will improve security because data is closer. And that's really a common myth around cloud, because the reality is that most security vulnerabilities are exploited remotely. So the physical location of the data has not really a bearing on security. And in fact, when you migrate your data in a cloud like AWS, you will increase the security posture of your organization because you will access the security features that no enterprise data center could ever achieve, because AWS operates cloud infrastructures at massive scales, and economies of scale apply to security. So yeah, just to give you an example, we support 98 security standards and compliance certifications. So if you move to AWS cloud, you can comply virtually with the requirements of every regulatory agency around the globe. And that's why we're hosting the workloads of many customers in military, defense, global banks. In the UK, we're hosting the data of secret service agencies. So contrary to the myth, cloud increases the security posture. So that's the first driver for data sovereignty. The second driver is this idea that by having data locally, the country will be more competitive, that investment will flow in the countries, etc. So it's quite bizarre if you think about it. So it's the idea that a restriction to digital trade will increase competitiveness. And that's another misconception and myth. There is a lot of theoretical, empirical evidence that when you introduce data localization obligations, you actually decrease economic growth. And the reason is very intuitive. You know, as Bernard explained before, the beauty of cloud is that you don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructures. So you access the depth and breadth of IT capabilities, an ecosystem of partners, security features that you would never have been able to access if you were going to source locally. Third, and please keep me, let me know, Tamer, if I'm taking too much time. An issue that is driving data sovereignty is resistance to change. I think Mounir touched a little bit about it. You know, the telecom industry is basically going through a major transformation of its production model. You know, the same way that cloud has transformed the IT industry, the finance industry, cloud is now transforming the telecom industries. And so the challenge that regulators, telecom operators face is that the pace of technology innovation is going much faster than the pace of regulation. You know, telecom policies typically have a 10 years life cycle, but technology innovation happens much faster. So that leads to something that is very sort of a human behavior, but that is resistance to change, taking conservative approach and preferring the status quo. But that, of course, is not good for innovation. I just finish, you know, how do we overcome that? So you got from my intervention that most of the issues are due to misunderstanding of cloud. I think we have a lot of work to do as AWS to continue to raise awareness on cloud security, work with customers, regulators to debunk this myth. Yeah, I think awareness is key. I will stop there because I'm just mindful of time.
You normally could go on and on.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Nicolas. Thank you. So I will return again actually to Ouassim from the marketing perspective. How do you see most relevant use cases for 5G and Edge? And where do you see it worth your investment and it achieve your it help you your ROIs from your perspective, from marketing specifically?
Yeah, I would probably broaden quite a bit the question because we're just considering the 5G investments. They are not done yet. But as I already heard from the other panelists, from the B2C or from the consumer side, we are more in the continuity of use cases. We are not forecasting a huge change in the use cases, at least in this market. I mean, 4G is already allowing a tremendous amount of experiences using mobile, including mobile broadband for homes. But we think that, of course, there is a big benefit from the technical spectrum and etc. But from the B2B side, I think that combining the low latency capabilities of such a network with edge computing can be very beneficial to address specific demand. Even here in Morocco, we've been, of course, working with some of our customers from the logistics, from transportation hubs, from industrial hubs to provide very integrated experiences, connectivity, mobile connectivity, and edge computing for the network, but also for the hosts of these hubs or these areas. Specific requirements also from these actors regarding not the localization of the data or localization of the cloud, but the sovereignty, because probably there is a small difference between both. Sovereignty for these customers for very sensitive activities is the ability to have in one jurisdiction, one country that is governing the data they are putting somewhere, and to be sure that even in case of external events, there is a continuity of activity that is ensured. And of course, inwi is providing a specific value proposal for these customers, but we are also providing and we are open to provide, of course, other value proposition regarding public cloud for people that are not very sensitive, and companies that are not very sensitive to not to the location, but to the sovereignty of their data. So I think the use cases around localized hubs consuming a lot of data with low latency requirements, probably sensitive data from security sites. In Morocco, there is a regulation that's, of course, classified, and that makes things easier to the corporates to decide whether it's an on-premise case, a public but sovereign cloud case, or a public worldwide case. So things are very clear, hopefully. So it's not an obstacle. I mean, this decision makers, they know how to address this. I think these are the main, probably the most probable use cases that we can address with both 5G and the very near edge computing capabilities.
Thank you, Ouassim. Thank you. So Bernard, we hear to the cloud enablement for vertical and B2B from marketing point of view, and also still you touch it from technology point of view, and also Mounir. How do you see it from a hyperscaler angle? Like how can you enable the enterprise and verticals to be ready for this digital era?
Yeah, thank you, Tamer. So actually, for each vertical, we see a range of options for cloud to play a major role, both in general, but also in specific to the vertical. But there are some basic advantages of cloud which are applicable to all of the verticals. Those are, for instance, cost advantages by up and downscaling of any kind of consumption models. Then you have staff productivity, and Mounir was mentioning before the efficiency. What we have as an example is the pharmaceutical industry, Novartis. They condense 39 years of computational chemistry into 9 hours only. So the efficiency and productivity is extremely high. You also have another advantage, which is about speed, flexibility, and agility of development through the same APIs. And that is something, for instance, we can see closer to home with Fly Dubai, where they have significantly improved their time to market and the ability to handle seasonal fluctuation in demand. So it's no longer that they have to predict what kind of capacity they would need, because they can spin up and spin down the capacity seamlessly without any need of planning and predicting the capacity for the next 3 years. And what Nicola mentioned very clearly in details is about the inherent security, availability, and resilience of the network, which I will not go through again, as Nicola explained it. But there's also the topic of sustainability, with cloud operating at very low carbon emissions and higher energy efficiency compared to any traditional data center. So those are generic basic advantages for all the verticals. But you also have advantages in different verticals, be it on the manufacturing, oil and gas, logistics, public sector, sport and entertainment, and so on, and always in relation to telco, of course. For instance, in manufacturing, we have the benefits from 5G connectivity, this capability, then combined with the cloud, it gives you it can link the production with optimized supply chain logistics, where we have improved safety for workers. You have the data which becomes available, which allows them through AI and ML to optimize the manufacturing process. And there we have, for instance, several examples. One of them was Verizon, where we worked together to create safety and manufacturing use cases with Corning in the US. And we are working with multiple customers to innovate quickly in this field. And that has been demonstrated at the manufacturing fair in Hanover this May. For oil and gas, for instance, this is very much a rugged environment industries where you need very specific kind of use cases. And here we're helping the telco operators with private networks as well, but also public. The connectivity on oil rigs or in a very difficult environment. Here we showcase, for instance, at the ADIPEC in Abu Dhabi last year, we do a use case where energy robotics, with energy robotics. And we also are working on the same case now with Etisalat to demonstrate this specifically for the oil and gas industry. The other field as well, for instance, vertical logistics and retail, there's benefit across the board from cloud capabilities at the front form of e-commerce. And Amazon is probably the best example, as AWS Cloud was born to help optimize and innovate at scale at that time with Amazon. That's how AWS actually was created. Then you have examples, for instance, in the sport, entertainment, as well as gaming. Here we see multiple use cases where the vertical can use to transform how its end customers and end users consume the products and services by enriching digital experiences, be it streaming, context information, AR, VR, or even to the point of interaction, the gamification and interaction. There are many other examples, like working with Orange at their Velodrome in France for sports use cases. You have also the use cases, for instance, in baseball or in Formula One, where AWS is actively participating. But also if you go to the financial industry, where AWS is powering the whole NASDAQ exchange by matching the technology where resilience, latency, and accuracy are significantly important. So there are many examples which are already existing, and Middle East and Africa is a major hub for sports, media, entertainment, but also what we are pushing for is really the innovation capability. And here the CSPs really play a very important role, as I said at the beginning, that they are in a position to promote innovation. And it will, but this innovation will come from the developer community. So it is important to build and enhance those skills and assets in the Middle East and Africa region. And the operators have this big role to work with different entities and and we are willing to work with them to build this developer community, which will create the use cases relevant to the Middle East and Africa region, other than those which are working globally. And then just to add to what Ouassim was saying, there are many use cases, but we do not foresee a one killer application or one biggest application. There are going to be many smaller ones which will fill the demand and the need of the end user.
Thanks, Bernard. This is really impressive. Mounir, like we listened to the benefits from the like service provider point of view, from the marketing and B2B needs? How do you see it? And you also personally spoke about the different challenges and scalability. How do you see the benefits from the solution provider seat?
Yes, so the benefits, the cloud adoption first for solution providers like ours provides kind of massive benefits. On the one hand, it provides the agility and the scalability. We talked about it. Right now, the networks are growing. With 5G, for example, when you're working on analytics and service assurance and these areas, for example, or network, any kind of network operation and automation, you're talking today about hundreds of billions of data records that need to be ingested per hour. It's massive, and you need to make sense out of it. So the storage and compute that is required, the power that is required to achieve outcomes is just massive. Operating in the cloud provides you the economics to do that and provides you the time to market. And I'll come back to it in a second, by the way, specifically for the telco, because it's important. But also, for us, it means unifying the tech stack, because what's happening is when you are delivering solutions on-prem, you have so many flavors, that in so many environments, so many databases, so many hypervisors, and so on. And you end up having to support and maintain such a diversity of tech stacks, and that comes at the expense of efficiency. So from that perspective, unifying your tech stack and then offering a service to your customers becomes really the right model that achieves efficiencies and benefits for both. So this is, again, time to market. I explained it, cutting the deployment times from months sometimes into hours, and achieving greater automation is another thing. Amortizing the investment across a larger base, because especially if you're doing this in the form of a multi-tenanted SaaS platform, right? Then you are able to offer this to a variety. You invest once and you offer something to a variety of customers. Coming back just to the AI in telco, because right now, let's put it this way, there is massive opportunity for the industry in terms of growth by creating new digital experiences for consumers, but mostly for enterprises. And we heard a lot in this panel about the use cases and the opportunities, and also from the automation and the efficiencies that can be achieved. Okay, to do that, you need to then move. The telco industry needs to move to a mindset of real-time, on-demand operations, because you are delivering. When you talk about 5G slicing, when you talk about even operating private mobile networks, the demand is not constant like this. There will be peaks of demands, and they will come in real time. So will the use cases. So you need to operate real time on demand. To operate real time on demand, you need to be highly automated, i.e., an order magnitude higher automation than what is available today. And that automation needs to be driven by AI. Now, when we say that, AI, and I'm talking because we have already use cases available and running on some of our customers, it requires massive amount of training. You need 2 years of data to be able to then select the best algorithms and then to train them to achieve, let's say, SMAP less than 20%, i.e. good accuracy of your forecasting and your models. To achieve that, the amount of resources that you need, the power of your compute, etc. And in the telco, it's each KPI will require a dedicated model to be trained to. It's a very, very complex and resource-hungry story. If you want to be serious about automating your operations for 5G, for Open RAN, and so on, and deliver the benefits to the customers. And this is where the cloud plays a big role. So people have to think of cloud not only as, oh, I'm migrating my workload and I'm achieving CapEx efficiencies and OpEx efficiencies. This is part of the equation, but it's you are getting access to a platform for innovation and platform that allowing you to profitably execute AI at scale and automate your operations at scale. It's a big, big difference. And each party can focus on their know-how. So you have use cases, you have the solutions providers like us that will bring the domain expertise to the table and the automation solutions. And then the hyperscalers like AWS, our partners, who will bring their telco lake capability. They will bring a platform for like training model platform like SageMaker and so on. So you have the value creation chain that will be delivered end to end. So there is a lot of value to be created, both in terms of new digital experiences and revenue growth, as well as automation and efficiencies. But to deliver against that promise, a new model needs to be implemented, and we believe that at least a hybrid multi-cloud model is the right one.
Thanks, Mounir. So back to Nicholas. I need to touch again the regulation part. So it's quite important, and the data regulation and policies is like a big headache to everyone trying to move to the cloud. So it's crucial to regulate data and implementation and set the right policies. Just in an easy way to explain to everybody why it's important. Why it's important to set the policies and regulations for data.
Thanks, Tamer. So it's important because regulation provides visibility for investment. The transformation that's happening in the telecom industry is a structural long-term transformation. So to embark in that journey, you need some visibility on the regulatory environment in which you're going to operate. And since things can go both ways, because you have that dilemma within regulators. Historically, regulators are here to regulate, impose obligations. But more and more regulators are shifting role to a digitization role. They're also here to help to accelerate digitization to develop the sector. And the challenge we face is that in most countries in Middle East and Africa, if you look at the telecom law, you will realize that it's been issued at a time when sometimes cloud didn't exist, or at least the transformation of telecom on the cloud was not in line of sight. So you have a framework that is somehow outdated and that doesn't suit the digital transformation. So the solution is to build future-proof regulation and risk-based regulation, because a common mistake also is to put all data in the same bucket, but not all data is equal. You have different classes of data that presents different levels of risk, and that should be managed differently. And we can help our customers, with our different infrastructure solution to manage that. It takes a bit of humility for regulators, to acknowledge that we don't know what's coming next. That the regulation might be outdated. So some regulators make the choice of exercising forbearance. So they say, okay, the framework doesn't apply at the moment because it's outdated. The new regulations that are introduced needs to be principle-based rather than rule-based, because we all agree on the principle, but setting very rigid rules today might hinder innovation. An approach that I think is that I like very much is the idea of the three-way discussions between hyperscaler, telecom operator, and the regulator. And a good vehicle for that is a regulatory sandbox. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel. The fintech industry has done a lot of regulatory sandbox to enable the transformation of the fintech sector in a safe and controlled environment. This is something that we can also implement in the telecom sector, and that some regulators are starting to do. The example is a telecom regulator in Bahrain. So yeah, that's one. Two, I think I've touched upon before, the fragmentation of frameworks and data privacy regulation across Middle East and Africa. And if we look at the history, the initiatives to harmonize regulations, particularly in Africa, have not been very successful. Even though there is a desire, an ambition for Pan-African economic integration, concretely that's not materializing, at least for data privacy. The privacy framework that was issued by the African Union in 2014, the Malabo Convention, has only been signed by 15 out of 55 countries. So there is an instrument to harmonize, but it's not really enforced. I wonder if the right vehicle to harmonize frameworks in Africa wouldn't be trade agreements. At the moment we have the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, AfCFTA, that is garnering significant political momentum with the 54 out of 55 African countries that signed the agreement. So that could be a vehicle to foster the harmonization of privacy frameworks. I will just end by going back to what I think Mounir, Ouassim touched upon that. I think also we need to work with our customers and help them classify their data. Not as I said before, not all data is equally sensitive, and classifying that data allows a risk-based approach and can allow to determine which data should stay absolutely in country because it's super top secret, and which data is can go overseas. So that's in a nutshell how I think we can crack the issue, the data sovereignty issue.
Thanks, Nicolas. Yeah, I know it's not easy always when we come to this discussion. I see we have several questions in the Q&A, so maybe I will end with last one with Stelios, then we move to Q&A. So Stelios, from your experience, how do you see the importance of accelerating cloud and data centers in the digital era? Like, how can customer benefits from the cloud investment, which CSPs are doing today, and the hyperscalers are doing? So how do you see how customer can benefit from that?
Thank you, Tamer. No, look, it's I think this question kind of builds everything that we've been hearing about all this time together. I think that the simple answer is this is super critical. Okay, as we evolve all our capabilities, both on networks and IT to cloud, we will need access to big cloud farms and access to, quite frankly, public cloud, because growing and needing the compute, the storage that we are seeing today, it cannot happen in a cost-efficient and sustainable way using private cloud environments. More so, when I think about data centers, it's not just about having the cloud environments, but it is the ability to have direct connectivity and other capabilities that are important. So bringing data to the data center, so caching from a number of key capabilities, peering directly with some of the key players, Google, Amazon, etc. So this is why I say this is a hand-in-hand capability that needs to evolve together. Also, when we talk about some of the benefits for customers, if I look at just from an IT perspective, we can use the cloud both for testing and production environments. Now, immediately, that means I can bring things to market. I can develop capabilities much faster, okay, if I have access to these big cloud environments. And more importantly, as things grow, as our new capabilities, new functionality are deployed, the data is growing, I can quickly spin up capacity. This is not easy when you have private cloud environments. We talked about before the lead times to get hardware, prepare your cloud, and so on. Public cloud really can help do that. So that's the auto scaling part, which is a key capability. from an automation point of view, which is something that we're all evolving to, okay? You know, being able to process data nowadays is just getting harder and harder. You need a lot of compute, a lot of storage. So all of this grows hand in hand. You keep on asking Nicholas about the security angle of things, and I fully agree with him. There are ways to tackle this. You know, encryption, authentication, building from the beginning zero trust security architectures. This is the way you can provide that safety net. Because look, ultimately, as a service provider, having the data safe, okay, is ensuring you have trust with your customers. So you need to make sure that is handled properly. And, you know, I talked about IT, it's the same thing on networks, okay? We are evolving to try and automate, to optimize so that we can constantly drive better performance, okay? And, you know, really do stuff in real time. So for me, having access to public cloud, and it is an evolution. It needs to happen, I think, starting in country, and then you can start to take a lot more stuff outside and be in the general cloud, okay? But it is a key thing. So, and that evolving with big data centers, enabling these cloud farms is critical.
Thanks, Stelios. We have like 9 Q&A. I was not expecting that much, so maybe we need to go through it very fast. But before we open it, I just need to remind everyone I will be starting the poll now. So please look to your screen and add your answer, and we will share the results at the end. I will launch it now. Then we open the Q&A. Okay, so let us have a look together for the Q&A. First one. Roger, following up on the major service disruption to Roger Communication customer in Canada following a core upgrade attempt, do you foresee a regulation encouraging local operator to cooperate and having redundant joint centralized data center, allowing service continuity to operator critical customer usage, operator network once major service outage occur in operator A network? So, like, anybody would like to take this?
More of a regulatory topic.
Yeah, maybe
Nicola will be able to maybe comment, but I haven't heard any of the requirement or regulators coming up. It is definitely an issue. The network outage which happened at Rogers was an important one, and it is crucial actually because it touched even the major services or emergency services. But I am not aware of such a regulation coming up. Maybe Nicola, do you know? You're muted.
No, Ben, I am not aware of such regulations. What we see in many countries is that we see the telecom sector being, in some countries, designated as critical national infrastructure. So that comes with obligation to, or certain measures to ensure service continuity. I think the role of cloud is that it actually, because it increases security posture and provides redundancy that wouldn't be possible to have on-premise. It actually serves that purpose to provide better service continuity in terms of national crisis or so, yeah.
Maybe Nicola, I'll add just a point here that there is, because there was a lot of discussion in some of the countries to address that concern is to split the infrastructure to create a national company will become like a utility, because they consider that telco infrastructure could be like more of a utility and needs to be very highly available, very secure, and requires massive investments to achieve that, to achieve very high levels of redundancy. So maybe it can be decoupled from the services. Let service providers focus on services and let this infrastructure be managed as a utility with, even backed sometimes by public investments. So that could be also some of the directions we could see in some of the countries.
I would also agree with Mounir's view, if I would say my view as well. So second one to Bernard from Started Safe. Is AWS ready for private 5G in the MEA region?
We are working on this. We are working on the 5G private networks together with the CSPs and operators. Obviously, the challenge here is, or the situation, I wouldn't call it even a challenge, but the spectrum is owned by the CSPs, and this is where we see the partnership with the CSPs going in the right direction, as we have the possibility to implement this together. We have the knowledge from the fulfillment side. The CSPs have the experience from the technology side. So I think it's a good combination, and that is something which is being worked on at the moment. Not yet there, but I don't think it will take too long time.
Thank you, Bernard. So to Mounir, are you ready to support O-RAN in Middle East? And how about cloud native OSS/BSS?
So on the first question, yes, we are. But in most of the, to be honest, across all our customers, not only in the Middle East, globally, Open RAN is still in the more experimentation state.
Adoption.
It's not really something that is deployed at scale, but yes, we are ready to support it in this, and we are doing it in many of our customers globally there. And it brings a new paradigms for how you need to operate and then assure the Open RAN as opposed to the physical networks. But we can. It's a big, in the interest of time, I will not elaborate a lot on it. In terms of cloud native OSS/BSS adoption, there is a huge traction right now globally, including in the Middle East and in countries like Morocco, like Saudi Arabia, like UAE. But it's mostly today in this region of the world, it's a private cloud environment, which means that we are running containers, we are running container orchestration. It is auto scaling, etc., but it is on OpenStack. It's using, or VMware. It's private cloud environments. But as we discussed today, for the obvious benefits, we're seeing also massive interest in moving this to also a full SaaS based on public cloud. And I think with the creation of local data centers, more local data centers, we will see kind of that facilitating this transition to SaaS and public cloud. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one, Ravi, I think to Bernard. So what level of automation being used by Telco in the hyperscaler today? Is it a real automation with orchestration, lifecycle management? Which level of automation you see happening today from your experience?
Very shortly, I mean, you have both, not maybe in the Middle East and Africa, we are not yet there, but you have many operators like Vodafone or Telefonica or Swisscom and others who are going through the full lifecycle management. You have other cases where it is a lift and shift, but it is more and more becoming a lifecycle management, because that's where you really get the efficiency and the power of the cloud.
Thank you. So next one, quickly, I think maybe Mounir or also Stelios can help us. Can we know from your experience what is the evolution path for Telco needs to become a cloud native from virtual appliance like VNF to CNF, or is Telco interested to choose final CNF architecture?
Why don't I start with that? So look, I think in terms of interest and trying to get there, definitely. I think that's where we would like to evolve. Right now, one important thing is also our providers, okay, our partners. When I think of from a network perspective, the likes of Ericsson, Nokia, and so on, is also how fast they evolve towards these capabilities. So this is the important thing. But as they do that, then we shall evolve as well. I think one of the things when I look at the overall cloud environment is that if I could get to the space where I have a single cloud, for example, OpenStack, and then run both my networks and my IT capabilities on a single cloud, this is where I will start to, again, get some more benefits that I'm not having to manage, operate, and look after two types of environments. And of course, I will then make sure I have geo-redundancy and other things to make sure that I can offer that redundancy and resilience for my customers ultimately. But yes, an element is also what we can get from our various network partners.
Yeah, I just add one point here that today we've
Okay,
seen,
thank you, Stelios. So, Mohammed, Anas, I think it's covered. Sure.
Sorry, yeah, just to say that, just to add one point, that it's we've seen, you know, VNF adoptions, NFV adoptions across the world, and it has been slower than initially anticipated. But right now, if telcos want to go all the way to the disruptive models of offering their network as a service, like Dish, and for example, that we talked about in the beginning, then you have to have Kubernetes orchestrating your network functions, and you will need to, you know, move from VNF to CNF, and that's the way I think the evolution we will see. Hopefully, a stronger and faster adoption of CNFs than we've seen with the VNFs.
Thanks, Mounir. I think rest are kind of repeated, so maybe we will take this last one. And I think Bernard and Ouassim can take it. Telcos obviously need to work and engage with hyperscalers, but how can this relationship work best from business perspective? And how can telco ensure they don't miss out value-added service revenue?
Well, probably I'll start just by saying that from our perspective as an operator, we're already working with and using services from hyperscalers like AWS, for example, but we are also providing complementary services to corporates that have specific requirements, regulation, or requirements of sovereignty, or requirements of kind of service. So we can be working on different segments, on different class of data. We can be working together in a value chain, and of course we can build new projects, of course, together to address specific needs as well.
Thank you.
Do you want to comment, Bernard?
So yeah, I would say that you know, this relationship is a very strong partnership based on the fact that from one side, we can help the telcos creating value by really supporting them in their own telco networks and IT networks become more efficient, as Mounir and Ouassim was saying before. The networks are becoming so complex at this stage that without automation, you will not be able to handle this complexity anymore, and that is. Stelios, actually, you were the one who said that, and that is this network complexity needs to be managed, and there are tools, there is automation, and the solutions are there, and that's where we are working together with the telcos. On the other side, what we are focusing on very much is the B2B, the joint go-to-market between us, both partners, where we are helping telcos to develop new services based on the cloud services available, to analyze the market, to see what the enterprises really need, and to define new services based on the local market need. We are there as well to train, to increase the competence, within the CSPs, but also in the country. So this joint go-to-market is a very important aspect where we both as a hyperscaler and as a telco go out to the enterprises, provide the services, or first define them, provide them, and we can even manage them, or there are different options. But that's an important role which we like to emphasize, and that's actually what's going to happen first, because we need to make sure that the enterprises really get the best service, as this is the way how they will stay loyal to the CSPs. And it also benefits, and the end of the day, also AWS or any hyperscaler, because those services will be built on the cloud services.
Thanks, Bernard. So we have just 2-3 minutes, so maybe I will quickly share the results of the poll, which we just opened up. So. And if anyone have any comments? So I see 97% agree with transmitted data to cloud should follow encryption, as Stelios and Nicholas and everybody agree from our speakers also. Second one, 79% data stored outside of any organization, host country should be subject to the law and the country where the data are stored. So this is 79%. Last one, 65%. European GDPR should be global standard for data protection. So 65% of participants agree and 35% disagree. So I'm not surprised. Any comment from any of our speakers?
I can take question 3. I'm surprised that people agree that GDPR should be the global standard. I think I would agree with that for GDPR principles, but I think GDPR sets quite a high bar in terms of compliance, reporting requirements. That one size fits all approach might not work in some countries. I would have chosen disagree on this one.
And also, I would add that to achieve a lot of the automation, for example, use cases that we spoke about, and a lot of the efficiencies, you can just go with anonymized. For example, a lot of what we do is to anonymize data sets and then to curate, filter them, etc. And these can be a source. It's still a source of wealth because it helps achieve huge benefits, huge OpEx reductions and efficiencies and so on, without really violating any kind of regulation. So it's not always about exposing kind of GDPR, type of restrictions. It's there are smarter ways also to go about it and achieve benefits.
Thank you, everyone. I think we all done a good job in time management. It's 4:30 sharp now. Before closing, I just get notification now from the organizer where we apologize to Mr. Khalid Morshid, the Chief Technology and Information Officer from Etisalat UAE by EAND. It seems like there is a miscommunication in the participation link where he could not, he got the wrong one and he could not join us, so we apologize for that. And I wish we meet all of us again in another panel soon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time, and thank you for our participant. Thank you.
Thank you very
much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.